Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and continue on our journey here of reviewing exponent rules. Alright, so we can go ahead here, distribute this power of 2. Now, remember, when you have a negative, it's incredibly important that you put parentheses around it when you raise it to a power. When you raise a power to a power, you multiply, so that's going to become q to the 6th. Negative 2, q to the 9th. So negative 4 squared is going to become positive 16. 16 divided by negative 2 gives me a negative 8. And 6 minus 9 gives me a negative 3. Now, remember, the only thing that gets booted down to the denominator is a negative exponent, right? This 8 is negative, but it's a negative coefficient, so it's not going to get booted down. So what ends up happening is this negative 8 is going to stay on top, and then our q gets booted down. All right. Let's see. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this one here, okay? Now, this is where things are going to start getting a little bit crazier, definitely a little bit tougher than the kinds of problems we did in part 1. So here we're starting out with negatives right off the bat. There's a couple of different ways you can go about these. What I honestly recommend you do is you rewrite it without negatives, right? So if you have negatives, you just, if it's in the numerator, move it to the denominator. If it's in the denominator, move it to the numerator. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And really what ends up happening is this t to the negative 8 just gets moved down. So now we can go ahead. T to the 4th raised to the 5th is going to become t to the 20th times t to the 8th. So then from there, we get t to the 20. Oh, what the heck? I just added in an extra negative for no reason there. My bad. So we get negative 4 over 3 times t to the power of 28. Now, you can't simplify negative 4/3, so it's going to stay like that. All right, let's try another one of these. It's starting to get a little uglier. All right. So let's see. The first thing I'm going to do here is deal with my exponent, okay? And then I'm going to deal with or I should say I'm going to deal with distributing this exponent, and then I'm going to deal with my negative exponents later. So we end up with negative 2 to the 3rd power, h to the negative 12th power, and u to the 9th power. So now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it without any negative exponents. So I get 6 h to the 10th, u to the 4th, and then this h to the 12th's got to get booted up. And then I can go ahead and deal with the negative 2 to the 3rd power. That becomes negative 8. And then I've still got my u to the 9th on the bottom there. So then we go ahead, we can simplify. My h's come together. Or actually, first I'm going to deal with my 6 over negative 8. That is going to simplify to negative 3/4. And then on the top here, I should just say when I combine like terms, I end up with h to the 22nd. And then I do top minus bottom, and I get u to the negative 5, which we can't leave it like that. So we're going to put our positive exponents on top, our negative exponents on the bottom. Alrighty. Okay, let's try this one. So like I said, I first want to deal with this guy here. I'm going to distribute. Oh, I got to distribute him here as well. So my top stays the same. I got 15 d to the negative 9, t to the 4th, and then I've got 5 to the negative 2, d to the positive 6th, and t to the negative 2. So like I said, once you kind of distributed that, let's get rid of all of our negative exponents. So let's see. This d to the negative 9 is going to get moved down. So we have d to the 9th on the bottom. My t to the 4th can stay on top. My 5 to the negative 2 gets moved up. My d to the 6th stays on the bottom. And then my t squared gets moved up. All right, so then we can go ahead and combine like terms, or not really combine like terms, I'm sorry, multiply the stuff on the top. So we end up with 15 times 25, which is going to give me 375. And then I end up with t to the 6th. And then at the bottom, we just get d to the 15th. Now, we can't simplify this anymore because, you know, the t and the d cannot go together, so we are done. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and, I guess we'll do one more of those. All right, so we'll go ahead and distribute this. So we end up with 3 to the power of -4 and d to the power of 8 all over 3, d to the 10, and q. So, oh, this is a good one. I'm glad we did this one. So let's get rid of all of our negatives here. So we're left with just d to the 8th on top. We've got 3, d10, and q, and this 3 to the -4 gets booted down, so it becomes 3 to the 4th. So 3 times 3 to the 4th is going to get me, what, 243, I think, right? 3 to the power of 4 times 3. Yep, 243. And we've got d to the 10 and q. We simplify this. Now, when we simplify this, right, we do the top minus bottom. And we end up with d to the -2, right? We have more d's on the bottom, so that makes sense that we're going to end up with d squared on the bottom. Now, at this point, there's nothing left on top. We just put a 1 there. All right. Once there's nothing left on top, you got to make sure you put that 1 there. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and do some work with the radicals here. Now if we look at our rules, the last rule that we copied down here was the fractional exponent. And it's pretty simple. Basically what happens is this guy goes inside of the radical and this guy becomes the power. So it would just be like 4th root of x to the 3rd. All right. Let's see. So then this next guy here, this would be 7th root of x to the 4th. And then you should be able to go backwards as well, right? So you end up, if we're writing this in exponential form, it would be x to the power of 4/3. All right. Hopefully that's pretty, pretty self-explanatory, but this definitely is something you want to know because this concept comes up quite often. All right. When you get into Math 3 and then beyond, it's definitely a concept you want to know how to utilize. All right. So then here they're asking us to solve for a, right? So all we got to do is, if we're multiplying these, right, when we multiply things with exponents, we add them. So it would be 1 plus 3/4, which is going to give us x to the 7/4. So that means that a is 7/4. All right. And then here, same thing. We have to add these together since we're multiplying. So 2/3 plus 1/2. So you could do that on your calculator if you want. Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll show you how to do it. Just in case you end up, at some point during Math 3, you'll need to know how to add fractions when you work with rational expressions there. So in order to add fractions, you need a common denominator. So if we've got 2 and 3, our least common denominator is going to be 6. So this first guy, I'm going to multiply by 2/2. I get 4/6. This next guy, I'm going to multiply by 3/3. And I get 3/6, which is going to give me 7/6. So the answer would be x to the power of 7/6, which means that a is 7/6. All right, and then something like this, right? This guy is going to be the quotient rule, top minus bottom, right? So it's going to be 1 minus 3/5. Of course, you need your common denominator. So 1 written with a denominator of 5 would just be 5/5. So we get 2/5. So our answer would be x to the power of 2/5. And since they're just asking for what a is, right, a would be 2/5. All right. And then let's see, we'll do this last one here. When you raise a power to a power, you multiply, right? So you would do 5/3 times 4. You end up with x to the power of 20/3, which a is just 20/3. All right. Make sure that when you unless it tells you to round, you should be giving me an improper fraction. All right. If it's specifically said like round to the nearest tenth or something, then yeah, then they want a decimal answer. But other than that, you should be giving me specifics.